Here I am, chat. Oh, Limgrave Ambulance is still here. This is for when I did my Elden Ring ranking. Let's go with that. I don't know if I can get Rainwave audio. I mean, I can just do this, I guess. Sound mixer. Oh, I'm getting a DM. Getting so many DMs. Help. I don't like the one thing about Chrome where it will only show you the audio source after you play something and it'll make audio come out of it. Because it's an application, it should just be in the volume mixer. But yeah, I'm gonna stop ranting because I don't want to be in that mindset right now. I just want to enjoy a nice chill evening of chicanery. That being me having a very bad opinion about Final Fantasy games. So, to give a little bit of context, well, to get into this, yes, I am basically a Final Fantasy streamer now, or recorder. Ever since I played 14, I've been going through the main series, and it's been really fun. And I thought, fuck it, why don't we just do a ranking of all the Final Fantasy games I've played so far? Yes, I could wait until I beat all of them, but that's going to be like 2025 at this rate. So I thought we can kind of like get a good standard of where and how I rank these games in this series. So, Floor Revelry presents his Final Fantasy ranking so far. 16, chat. It's not 16, it's not Final Fantasy 16, this is going to be very confusing. I've ranked this in just base order. We're currently in the Blair tier, so the bad tier, in my opinion, the bad Final Fantasy game. No surprises there. I just realized I'm blocking my text, but I can fix that very easily. No surprises there. Final Fantasy X-2, the most recent playthrough, is my least favorite Final Fantasy game. I know that there are people in the community who do like X-2 for some reasons, and I can understand those reasons, but I had an absolutely miserable time with this game. I don't think I've played or streamed a game where my eternal face was either annoyance or the cat hype emote. Or the hype joke emote, this thing. I was the hype joke emote for the last third of that game. And it just kind of kicked me, at the end, where they were like, it's a Final Fantasy game, and we're going to use love as the thing that defeats Shuyin. I was like, no, can we not? Can we just have a good Final Fantasy sequel? But as I wrote here, it's trying so hard to be a sequel to Final Fantasy X, however, it fails at almost every opportunity to be interesting and engaging. It has some redeeming qualities, that being a couple of the minigames, but I'm sorry, they're not enough to carry the pile of absolute garbage that this game upheavals at you at any given... Hello, Finn! Welcome in. I hope you're doing good today. Welcome... Oh, there are two raids at once. Oh, not two raids at once. Two shout-outs at once. I think you broke my camera, Maelstrom. You haven't auto shout-out yet? I set it up a streamer bot. Welcome in, Finn. You have just joined me for my Final Fantasy ranking and the one that is in last place. But I hope you enjoyed your birthday stream. Hashtag Team Bat, after all. Maybe had some fun with some puzzles. But yeah. No, yeah, Maelstrom, I've always got... Is this Katamari Damacy? I'm sorry, Katamari, but I can't have you on right now because I need no vocal music. Yeah, welcome in. Hope you enjoyed your birthday stream. The puzzles. But yeah, the best part of this game is the combat. I would say the dress fear system is good. I don't think it's anything incredible. I just think that I enjoy playing through it, and I really loved abusing the Lady Luck system. And the Berserker. I don't usually play as Berserker in Final Fantasy, but putting that on Pain and giving her so much power and all these amazing accessories made her such a good character. And she honestly beat Yuna in terms of damage output at the end. But that's 16. That's Final Fantasy X too. Moving on. This song is good. What is the song? Oh, Dark Cloud. No surprises again. It's Final Fantasy 15. At 15th, I have one thing that I can absolutely praise this game for, and that's the music. I think this has one of the best soundtracks in the series. However, that does not... it does excuse... I understand that this game's development was hell, and it was in development for a very long time, and eventually it came out as an unfinished product. I understand that. It's open world, tried to be overworld, and it failed. That doesn't mean that my enjoyment is going to be, you know, higher just because I'm aware of that. I still had a bad time. I think this is an important thing to be noticed, that I'm aware of its issues and what happened during development, but my enjoyment isn't affected by that. It's affected by the game I played, and the game that I played wasn't very good. I thought the characters were alright. I thought Noctis and Prompto and Gladiolus and Ignis were fun. Until the final act where they lost all their character. And the combat was meh. I actually don't like the combat in this game at all. I think it's too simple. I can praise this game for letting me beat it over the course of a 3-day weekend. Hell yeah. I have nothing else to say about 10-2. It's just a game. Well, not 10-2, 15. I don't like, you know, constantly bitching on the game, because it's not fair. It's not fair to be mean to this, I think, but emotionally, my enjoyment is not high. I think there's a difference between, you know, yelling at a game for being bad and the development being hell. I actually kind of forgot that somebody ordered this. I don't know what's coming up. Oh. Final Fantasy 13. I mean, that was also to be expected. If everyone remembers my stream of this game, my final stream I did, where I was losing my mind, I'm going to read what it says here. I can appreciate its attempts to modernize Final Fantasy, however, unlike 7, it failed to engage me. With a poor combat system and story, it was a bore. And I think that's the main thing that I had coming out of this game. It's boring. Like, anger aside, rage aside, I don't enjoy combat systems that feel like they were designed for a mobile phone. Obviously, it is not designed for a mobile phone, but it was such a simplistic tactical system where they wanted very precise things from the player, and there was little to no innovation. You just had to do something very specific of what the game wanted you to do, and it just ended up being issues after issues. Doesn't help that the game had an inbuilt tutorial for 13 hours. It didn't feel like the game kicked off until chapter 10, and that was 3 chapters from the end. I honestly think the characters in this game are quite good, though. I like Lightning, I like Hope, I like Fang, Vanille. I think that it has quite a strong party, which is something I can praise it for. I like this cast more than 15's cast, because at least they have actual stakes and they get angry at each other in a meaningful way, where it makes sense. Because Hope is a teenager. Of course he's going to be angry. But, yeah, 13. I think this is the game where I stopped being excited for Final Fantasy titles, which makes sense because, like, it's a bore. It's tedious. It doesn't really do anything to engage the player, and it just kind of ends on a note of, why did I play this? I feel like my time's been wasted. However, I will say, I have recently come back on this game a little bit, at least in terms of the story department. Especially the mid-game. I think the story in the mid part was actually the strongest in the whole game, where you just had the characters bouncing off each other and had some really, I would say, powerful scenes that were really neat. But then, of course, Bartandalus appeared, and then it just became really stupid and not funny or engaging anymore. But anyway, 13 chat. Final Fantasy 11. Now this is its temporary place, because I can't really rank this game because, as it says there, to be updated in Voyage Through Vana'diel. I'm going to be focusing more on 10-2. In fact, I'm going to change the music now. I think I've said this a few times, but I think yeah, which is sad because most people see the 13 and go, nah, I don't want more than that. Which makes sense because people put their money into 13 and they kind of wanted a specific thing, but it didn't happen, and then they're like, Well, why would we get 13 too if it's going to be the same game? Why not call it Final Fantasy 14? But yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, this is where it's currently at. It can't go lower. I mean, it can go lower, but I don't think it will. But I'm just going to put this here now. It is not bad. I haven't really played it that much. But it's going to sit at 13 for now. Until I can play more of 11. Or not play, the watch 11. 12, chat. Yeah, this is a divisive one. I think a lot of people are going to be like, what the fuck, Flower? So, I don't like 10 that much. I don't hate it. I think it's a good video game. But I have actual problems with the combat and the story that go more than just it being Final Fantasy X, the masterpiece that is the new Final Fantasy VII, because this is the game that most people talk about. It's either 6, 7, or 10. These are the ones that like flare into the general mind when it comes to Final Fantasy. But the story kind of sucks, chat. I don't know about you, but like the Sin stuff is so confusing, and the Dream of Zanarkand, they don't even explain it at the end. It's just like I'm sitting there like I mean, in a sense, I'm kind of glad they didn't explain it because it made the final scene better. But also, it just made the end game kind of lose all its tension. I think 10 had a lot to live up to after the PSX set. I agree entirely. And then let's get on to the combat, chat, because I do not enjoy the combat in this game. I think the spear grid system is fun, as I say here, and I'll read this out. Oh god! Divisive I know. The story is carried by its characters, and while the spear grid system is fun, it doesn't save an honestly frustrating battle system. And yeah, I just find the battle system frustrating. You can break it, sure, by using certain characters in the endgame, like Wakko with balls. But for the majority of the game, I was suffering with a combat system that was very difficult and felt very unyielding in its difficulty. Maybe it's not for me. Maybe this sort of turn-based system doesn't work for me, personally. But I just found it very janky and too strict and rigid. Seymour fights including, because I think the Seymour fights are the personification of this game's problems for me. It's like, oh, we have a mechanic here where he rotates between elements. How are you meant to know that? Oh, you gotta scan him. Okay, well now I understand what I'm doing. But even then, it's still a difficult fight, and you can't summon in the Seymour fights. Why can't you summon? It's one of the most important parts of the game. And yet, they lock off summoning during them, because why? It's like in Legend of Dragoon, where you had boss fights that would lock off your Dragoon forms. It's an essential core part of 10, and Yuna becomes useless, because you can't do it. Anyway, ranting aside, I think that 10 is a good game. That's actually lower than people expected, and lower than 12 too, by the way. I want that to say in people's minds. This is lower than Final Fantasy 12. That's amazing to me. Also, don't look at these scores and be like, well, this game has a higher score than what you put at 10 or 7, so why isn't it higher? This is just a general ranking I would give each aspect. There's also the level of enjoyment I had too. So I think while this qualities may be higher, the overall enjoyment may be reduced. Okay? Let's move on, shall we, from 12 or 10. Well, these numbers are really confusing me. And now we have Final Fantasy 12. It was hard, chat, to work out whether to put this above 10, but I decided to in the end because I had a more fun and enjoyable experience of it. Let me just read what I said here first. The story and characters are severely underdeveloped, however it's saved by a remarkably fun combat system and decent music. Yes. The combat in this game is chef's kiss. I love it. You would be surprised that I love it as much as I do. It is such a fun system. The gambits are really cool. It never loses itself in its combat. You know exactly what you're being punished for. It's a really fair system. It's just a great combat system that works. And again, I know that there was development issues. I know what happened to the main story director, and I feel terrible for what happened to him. But the story wasn't good, unfortunately, and it did hold this game back in that regard. If this game had a good story and a good combat system, this could be at like 4 or 2 or even 1. Because I love the combat. I think it's one of the best combat systems in the series. But yeah, you just got Penelo over here, just sitting here like, hi, I'm a main character too. Don't just ignore the fact that I was made in Final Fantasy XIV's like character creator. Number 10, chat. Ooh. Bit low, huh? For Final Fantasy 16. Sneaks in the JoJo View and 12 because it was the first one I played. Legola, that's being generous. I think I was very generous at 12. I don't know about you, chat. I think this is like this is pretty good. I can't put it any higher than that, Legola, because we got 16 immediately afterwards, and people are gonna be like, "But I thought you loved this game, Flower. You literally one of your episode titles is like, it almost gave you a heart attack because of how good it was." Yes, in the moment I loved this game, and I think that was recency bias as well. But now that I have allowed this game to kind of simmer, and after playing and partaking of the DLC, it's got some problems, chat. It's got some big problems. Let me just read what I said here. Oh, I keep clicking the wrong one. A fantasy spectacle, but far too shallow when it comes to gameplay. It's decent across the board, but it's held up by MMO mechanics. By that, I mean, the devs are MMO devs. They made Final Fantasy XIV. And in some ways that's good, because they know how to handle a good story and how to structure it. But the side quests are so bland. They're just not interesting. They're back and forth dialogue, and then you go out, get an item, something kind of interesting happens, you go back and forth dialogue, and then quest end. The DLC is basically as bad as this. You do this, back and forth dialogue, you go here, fight a monster, back and forth dialogue, and the worst part is, chat, the combat isn't even that good. I don't mind the Devil May Cry focus, even though it doesn't feel like Devil May Cry at all. Like, there's a massive combo system in Devil May Cry that isn't even introduced here. But let's ignore that for a second in favor of very flashy abilities that, while they look cool and perform very interesting little changes to the combat that make it more structured, it doesn't have any bearing on like enemy variety or like the strategy aspect of Final Fantasy. I like turn-based because it's strategy orientated. You're not going to go into a boss fight and be like, oh, I can just do the same thing on this boss I do in every other fight. In this game, you just do that in every single fight. There is no exception, I don't think. You can just fight the same boss the same way, no matter what. And it's annoying. It just turns bosses into HP sponges, and enemies too. There was an opportunity here that introduced enemy variety to more so than just basic fodder. But they didn't do that. They had shields they barely used. They had magical like attacks that they did barely use too. If this game had an elemental system, like I always talk about, this game had an elemental system, or some way of, I don't know, making the enemies more unique. Make flying enemies more of a threat. Make you have to use Garuda's attack to pull them down more. I don't know, but there needs to be more than that, than just punch, dead. But that's 16. Great story. Great-ish story until the second half kind of spills over a little bit. Characters are fantastic. Love the characters. And the music, Soken is at his best here. I think this is one of Soken's best things he's ever done. So yeah, there's that. There's 16. Number 9. Final Fantasy IV. Final Fantasy IV is higher than 16, chat. I remember a lot of you were trepidatious when I said I was going to play the old games, and you were like, Flower's going to hate them because they're old, and he's not going to like them at all. Well, here, phooey to you guys, because guess what? These are some of my favorites. 4 is not higher than 16. I know you're pee-poo math, but come on, dude. It's the power of 4. The power of 2. Oh, no, not the power of Final Fantasy 2. Ew. This is good Metroid music. What is this? Oh, it's from Super Smash Bros. So yeah, as I wrote here, a classic in turn-based combat and creativity, embraces a simpler story and characters in favor of its gameplay, settling the standard for the series to come. I know I kind of ignored development, but I couldn't really do that with 4. I went into this with low expectations because I didn't think it'd be great, and I loved it. It was really fun. Whenever you felt like the combat or the locations were going to become uninteresting, boom, you're underground. Boom, you're on the moon. It's such a good game. No, yeah, as I've mentioned before Cyber, the score is just like a kind of a base summary. The actual total doesn't accumulate to anything. Like, these are different criteria entirely. So a game earlier on might have higher rankings than this. It's just kind of you to gauge, okay, he likes this part more than this part of the game. Yeah, the scores don't matter. It's just something fun. I added for flavor. But yeah, music is really good in 4. I mean, they had a lot of it in Endwalker, and I love the music in 4 so much. Combat, again, simple, but effective. It works. Every single fight feels like a puzzle. Like, I love the 4, what are they called? The 4 guys, the 4 fiends, because they each are different, unique puzzle fights. The Bahamut fight in this game is really cool, because you got to jump to avoid his Mega Flare, and then you jump back down to hit it afterwards. It's neat. There's a hidden reviewer's sway stat, yeah, and it's on 104, baby. That's it, that's the one. But yeah, like 4 a lot. I don't really have to explain too much. The story is simple, sure, but that also wasn't the focus. They weren't focusing too much on a really powerful story. I like the stuff with Cecil. I think Cecil's development from Dark Knight to Paladin was interesting. It wasn't anything incredible, but it worked for what it is, and that's going to also play into 5 as well when we get to 5. Because, by the way, 5 is higher than 4. And 16. We haven't gotten to 5 yet. 8. Final Fantasy 8. I love this stupid game so much. This is like if 10 maybe had come first, I would have probably liked 10 more. But I can't get over how much fun I had with 8. Like, what I say here, a broken game that I absolutely adore for its insanity. You can never predict where the story goes, which can be a make or break for many people. There was a whole part in 8 where I was losing my mind because we went to a space cannon, we got shot to a space station, and then the moon exploded and it just released a bunch of monsters onto the world, and I was like, what the hell is happening? Stop caring about Final Fantasy games after this one. Yeah, I mean, this is the end, isn't it, Cyber? This is the best one. This is the penultimate, this is the finalist fantasy game we've had. So, story is terrible. Like, I like the first half of the story. I like it until the garden battle, and then it just becomes bad. Characters are not good. Yeah, Rinoa is really bad. I don't like Rinoa at all. I haven't played these games. It seemed like there was a lot of moon tourism. There was a lot of moon stuff in 8 and 4. The story was really goofy, and I like it. I like how silly it is, and it's stupid. I can adore a game that just throws wacky things at me and it sticks. That's why I like Kingdom Hearts so much. Might also see, chat, that I've ranked music really high here. I think this has a better soundtrack than 8, than 9, and 7. No, not 7. I think it has a better soundtrack than 9 because, my God, he was so cooking with the soundtrack in this game. And the final boss theme is probably my favorite final boss track ever. The Extreme, so underrated. I know people love it, but it's still underrated. It is amazing. It's generally, and the battle theme too is so good. But yeah, 8, really fun game, and I love it. Like it more than 16, everyone. Anyway, continuing on to 7. I don't know what 7 is. The 14 version of the Extreme now. Oh, yeah. This is the first Final Fantasy game I did in my marathon outside of 14, obviously. Final Fantasy 9. I've kind of gone up peaks and valleys with this game in terms of, like, enjoyment and opinion. I think that Final Fantasy 9 is both a really good game and also mediocre in spots. I think the first 2/3 of the game are some of the best Final Fantasy we've ever gotten in the series. Everything that transpires with, like, Alexandria, Limblum, Bermesia, the Ifa Tree, the Lifa Tree? I think it's called the Life. It's not the Ifa Tree. Probably play the remake of this when it comes out. People thinking that might get announced next week. I don't know about that, considering Square have said they're reducing their number of big games that are coming out. But I guess, I mean, 9 is probably important, right? They probably, I would say they probably want to wait until 7 remake finishes, right, before they announce a 9 remake. You don't want to split the fans on that, but maybe that's not the case. Music is fantastic in 9. They nail it. The composer, I think, said that he spent a lot of time doing this soundtrack, and it burnt him out, I think, as well, how good it is. But as I write here, let's read what I said. Beautiful classic fantasy setting met with a dark message about mortality. We all love this game, despite the non-intuitive combat system, and that is something that I know is going to be controversial, chat. I think this game has the worst combat system out of the PSX Final Fantasy games. It tries to be unique. It tries something interesting. I do not, in fact, love this game. That's fair, Cyber. I don't think it's a masterpiece. I think it's great. I think the lesson about mortality is really mature for a game like this. But the combat is very boring. I'm sorry. I don't like the combat. I think that it's just... I don't even remember it that much. It was a lot of inventory management. But so was 8, but also 8 was broken, and I liked the triad. And 7, we don't even talk about 7, because 7 is the best combat system in the series, so... But yeah, that's 9. Number 6. Final Fantasy V, chat. Look how high it is! Holy shit! This is higher than 9! Your boy Bartz. It is StarCraft music. I do in fact love this game. Hell yeah, Cyber. About as fantasy as you can get. This is such a fun game that knows exactly what it is, as well as having a great job system and translation. This is one of the funniest Final Fantasy games I have played. The dialogue is so good. I think because it was translated later than 4 and 6, it had a better, I don't know, had just better dialogue overall. Story is nothing to write home about, but it's fun. And that's the main message I want to get behind 5. At no point during this playthrough was I annoyed or really angry at anything. I mean, I was angry at certain bosses in terms of mechanics, but I was having an absolute blast at 5. It just, every like scene, they're doing something weird, unique. It feels like with this game, they didn't want to have stakes. They didn't want to have like this really powerful story or message. They just wanted to have a fun time making a weird RPG, and that's why 5 is great. 5 is about as fantasy as you can get. Kind of like how 9 is about how final you can get in terms of Final Fantasy. So yeah, I love 5. Nothing else really to say about it. Your boy Bartz is fantastic, and I like the combat a lot. The job system is really cool. Number 5, chat. Final Fantasy 6. I mean, this isn't really surprising, is it? Like, I went into this, and I came out loving it. I'm gonna read what I said here. The series' first peak, the game's structure is fascinating. However, I think the overabundance of characters takes away from its story. Yeah, I got a pretty big criticism, and that's the amount of characters. They were trying something different with this game, but when I hear people complain about Chrono Cross and its number of characters, I want to point them to Final Fantasy VI and be like, have you not played Final Fantasy VI? Because there's 20 characters. There's not. There's 20 characters in this game, I'm pretty sure. And the issue with that is they don't allow for, you know, player interaction and you having these nice little scenes. One of the best parts of 5 was the character interactions. Having these really fun guys just bouncing off each other. And in 6, there was none of that because they couldn't really do that with its structure. That is not saying that the story is bad, though. I think it has some of the best cutscenes. The opera scene is fantastic. Everything involving Sellers is great. The fact that Kefka wins, and we get a lot of good individual character moments, but I like the characters getting more to do together. I mean, to be fair, Chrono Cross does have a closer to 50, right? But also it falls into a very similar problem, I feel. And you can't really ignore, you can't just say that and then ignore what Six Source has the exact same issue. It has less characters, sure, and there's one scene in the entire game that is optional where all the characters interact. And that's when you're trying to dress up, I think, Gar, right? When they're trying to dress up the little boy you find, and he's going to be his family, and everyone's like trying to help him. It's very adorable. I want more of that, but there's none of it. I think the structure's good. I think both halves of the game are really strong, and it's I mean, it's a great game. I can't really say what hasn't been said about 5 yet or 6 yet. It is the best, the peak of early Final Fantasy. Number 4. So, my actual first ever Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy VII Remake. A lot of 10s here. I think this is our first 10s, actually. I don't know if there was a 10 for 6. Let's have a look. Was there a 10 for 6? No, there wasn't. Music is the best in the series. I think, actually, Remake has the best soundtrack overall in the series. Outside of 14, actually. Had to be 10 on characters. I mean, yeah. I mean, you had to be 10 on characters and music, of course. The characters in this game are fantastic. I haven't seen better written characters, even in 14. Every single character gets a lot to do. Barrett is my role model. I live up to be as cool as Barrett one day and having as much Unger as that man. His Unger is maximum. But yeah, everyone gets a lot to do. I think the main voice cast is great. People thought this remake was going to be bad when it came out, but it ended up surprising everyone. And this game feels like they're trying to be a little more serious than how Rebirth is, which makes sense because they're also a little bit nervous about doing this. They've never done a project this big, and they know it has to pay off. But now that they know what fans want, Rebirth came out and just completely floored everyone because of how good it is and how freeing it is. It's such a freeing game after how condensed and claustrophobic Remake can feel sometimes. And I think that automatically makes it better, at least in my opinion. But yeah, Remake combat system. We'll talk about it more later, but yeah. Good. Moving on to number 3. Spoiler warning, we're going to be seeing a lot of Final Fantasy VII for the next few entries. Final Fantasy VII, the original, that is at number 3. Getting past its age, this is a masterpiece in turn-based combat and story. A phenomenal achievement. Yeah, is this House Live music? This combat system is so good. This is the best classic Final Fantasy game in my opinion. And it's great, isn't it? It's a great journey. I remember when I first told you about it, Maelstrom, and how much I wasn't going to get into the character models because they look like Duplo characters. But I ended up loving it. I ended up really loving 7. You build in this one. I stopped playing it. You got enough place to put in Rebirth as well and leave Dojo Cerberus at number 1. So I expect that's what's going to happen. That's assuming I played Dojo Cerberus yet, Cyber. I might not have. But yeah, I can't really say anything else about 7. I've seen people on the internet, I see a lot of discussions being like, I think 9's the masterpiece and 7's alright. I was like, no! This game is incredible! People have gone back and forth on whether 7 is a masterpiece or not. It is! It's a fantastic game. Story is great. Characters are great. For a game this old, it is shocking how good it is. And yeah, it's old. That's what we're getting a remake though. But yeah, I think this is better than remake just because it's the overall package. Remake feels very like it's the beginning of something. And the story is a little bit convoluted in spots, especially when it comes to the dirty dishwasher rags ghosts. Moving on, chat. Number 2. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Yeah, let's read what I said. Convoluted narrative aside, this is the most amount of fun I've ever had of a Final Fantasy game. A perfect open world experience with so much to do. People need to play this, is all I'm going to say. If you like video games, play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, play Remake. It is, in my opinion, a perfect open world game. I know people have grievances of how much there is to do, and how much content there is. But I never argue that the game having a lot of content is a bad thing, especially when it's as fun as this. It never feels like anything is too similar to something else. Does it have radio towers in it? I cannot answer that for fear of being attacked by a Ubisoft employee. What's this music? This feels like a music that would be heard in Rebirth. Like this sounds like yeah. I'm glad he went back to it. Yeah, I enjoy 7. I thought 7 was really good. But I mean, look how many 10s there are here, chat. The only one that isn't 10 is story, because again, it's a little convoluted. I don't think the story is the main thing though. It's about the journey. It's about the journey of going through it. Bao Bao burns ordered. Now we wait. Oh shit. But Rebirth is great. I love it. So Cyber, you thought that Rebirth was going to be at number 1, but I mean, what do we think number 1's going to be, chat? I mean, look at the background. No, I said Dirge Cerberus. Oh wow. Kingdom Hearts? No, it's Final Fantasy 14. No surprises there. Of course it'll be Final Fantasy 14. I mean, how can we literally talk about this list without talking about the Final Fantasy game that has become such a big part of my life? Like, a Dawn Trail is coming out soon. I have put more hours into this game than all the other Final Fantasy games in the marathon combined. Story. The best story in the series. Best characters in the series. Best music in the series. Not the best combat. The last 4 were 7, so I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure Crisis Core is probably going to be lit near the bottom, because I found out that it was mission based and I was like, oh my god, no, it's like 10-2. Probably wouldn't be here doing all these if it wasn't for 14. Exactly. I mean, how can anyone who's played 14 and got into Endwalker be like, there are better Final Fantasy games? Because there isn't. You can't rank 14 and then put the others next to it. It's not fair. 14 has more content than all the other ones combined. The only thing I'll argue for is the combat, because the combat admittedly has its faults as an MMO, but I still think it's really fun, especially when you get a good character and know what rotation you want to use. Well, unless you're a dirty Dragoon and you lose all of your dives because the developers don't want to give you fun. No. I don't know where that came from. But yeah, that's the ranking, chat. And that's it. In terms of what I've played. Because, chat, we've got other Final Fantasy games left in the marathon. As you can see here, these are the ones that are remaining. Final Fantasy 14 Dawn Trail, Final Fantasy 13 2 after that, Final Fantasy 1, Final Fantasy 7 Crisis Core, Final Fantasy 3, Final Fantasy 7 Dirge of Cerberus, Final Fantasy 4 After Years, Final Fantasy 13 3 Lightning Returns, and the final Final Fantasy 2. The amount of times I have to convince people to keep playing during ARR is sad. I definitely should take a chainsaw to a Ram Reborn. Or just like, I don't know, do like a movie or something for like. I've said this before, but I think Square, if they want to get into animated content or like an Amazon Prime show or something, make a TV show for Final Fantasy 14. Literally right there. Well, you don't need to have like, you can make your own new character from it. They could just remake it while hitting the same story beats. Exactly. I mean, you can't really make it any more engaging than it is because the story is very limited. But you can make Gaius more interesting. You can make Minfilia a good character again like he was in 1.0. And you can even rewrite things so you don't retcon them later. Like with the Asians. But that's it, I think. And more to come at a later date. This was going to be the part where I announced I was going to play Final Fantasy Tactics. But I don't want to promise that and then not do it. That's the thing. I don't want to be like, I'm going to play Final Fantasy Tactics as part of the marathon, because the way the marathon works is I am going to be playing the whole game. I'm not going to be like stopping or but this game is terrible, I am going to be playing the whole game. So I don't want to get the tactics and then struggle for the entire thing. So I'm going to give that game a grain of salt and do some research on it before I even attempt it. Because I don't want to do a series where people are going to be sad I didn't play it all. I want people to enjoy that. So I'd rather do a series that people will enjoy rather than not. I mean, you made it through X2. It's a very different pie though, Maelstrom. It's a very different cake. 10-2 is bad. Tactics is good, but also might not be a game for me. One is a shit cake. I agree. Yeah, I think that's it. That's it. That's the whole ranking. So going back through the list. One final time. Why not? At number 16, Final Fantasy X-2. It's a pile of garbage. Final Fantasy 15. It was stuck in development hell, and it wasn't that good. 14. Final Fantasy 13. It was an absolute bore. 13. Final Fantasy 11. I haven't played it yet. 12. Oh, this sucks. I hate the fact I've numbered this. Final Fantasy 10. Divisive, but true. 11. Final Fantasy 12. The story and characters suck, but the combat's good. 10. Final Fantasy 16. It is boring, but good. 9. Final Fantasy 4. A classic, but also very simple. 8. Final Fantasy 8. A broken game. 7. The Final Fantasy 9. Great balance between mortality and a classic Final Fantasy setting. 6. Final Fantasy 5. Your boy Bartz. 5. Final Fantasy 6. The series' first peak. 4. Final Fantasy 7 Remake, my first Final Fantasy game. 3. Final Fantasy 7. It's a masterpiece. 2. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. It's also a masterpiece. 1. Final Fantasy 14. It's a super mega masterpiece. And we're done. I hope you all enjoyed the stream. We got like 15 minutes left, chat, before I stop. With Final Fantasy 12, you'll always hold a very special... Let me show you something. So, Legola, let me show you something. Just so you can get a good idea of where 12 actually sits on my list. Just so you don't feel too bad about it. And I don't make you feel too bad about it. Let me just grab my actual tier list that I made. Because I do prefer tier lists than just putting them in a random ranking, because it has no bearing on enjoyment, I feel like. I'm going to enjoy games more for one thing and less for other things. So what I'm getting is that Final Fantasy was the first peak, and there's all been peaks after that. They put out Final Fantasy 14. Exactly. I understand why it's so low. It wasn't great. Man, 3 fucking weeks and we're in Dawn Trail. Don't say that! 2 weeks until Elden Ring. Don't say that! 1 week until Silksong. No! If Silksong, Elden Ring, and Dawn Trail all come out in 1 month, I think I'm going to explode. That means I'm going to have to stop playing Abiotic Factor. I'm not happy about that. Whoa. Half-Life 3 out now. I mean, I wouldn't play that. I like Half-Life, but I'm not that invested in the story. Here it is, chat. Oh god, I'm being eaten by this. So yeah, this is like the ranking so far. Not all the games are on here, by the way, but like, this is like where the tier list stands. So 12 is in Bullpen. 12 is in A tier. Like, all these games are in A tier. The only ones that are bad are 10, 2, and 15, in my opinion. Like, even 13 has some redeeming qualities about it. I think 10 being an alright is the perfect place for it. But we got a bunch of games. Where do we think... You know what? Why don't we do this as a fun final thing? Where do I think the other games are going to go on the list? And I can work it out now. So I'll go through the ones I have on here. For Dawn Trail, I don't think we're going to count that because it's 14. But let's just create some assets. So let's go through 13.2 first, which is already on here, but I can't update it. 13.2? I should do like... really fuck this up. 13.2, there we go. And I'll do this. Oh god, what's happening? I enjoyed the Catasium system on 12. My favorite character was Fan, but I hated her voice. I wasn't really a big fan of Fan either. Wasn't that the one of Melon Husk kid's name? Kid's name? Yeah, probably Zyber. I'm gonna put 10-2 in alright. Mainly because I think I'm going to enjoy 13-2, not 10-2. Ugh. 10-2 is going to burn. I think 13-2 is going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be amazing. Then moving on to that, next one. Literally Final Fantasy 1. I think Final Fantasy 1's also going to go in alright. Go in with that expectation. And then come out saying it's the perfect Final Fantasy game. That's not going to happen. I hope it personally... I think it will. I'm not going to go into it thinking it's going to be bad, because I actually come back on 13 a little bit too, so... I'm down to play a new 13 game. Nexus Crisis Core. I'm going to be like, this is the one that's going to be out here, chat, but I think Crisis Core might go into Blair. It could either be on... like Bupin or Blair, depending on how the story hits me, but I'm going to put it on Blair for now, and we'll see what happens, okay? Mainly because our rankings so far have been very similar, Maelstrom, and I think if it comes to this, it's probably going to be the same. It's the Kingdom Hearts of Final Fantasy VII. 13... 3, I think, is also going to be an alright. I don't think it's going to be anything to write home about. But, yeah, I think it's going to also probably go in here. And then next, we're going to have Dirge. Oh, Dirge of Cerberus. Chat, this is going to be a striking one. But I think Dirge of Cerberus is going to be in Bupin. I know this is probably wrong because everyone hates this game, but what if I'm the one person who likes it? What if I'm the one person who thinks it's a genuine masterpiece? I feel like that's something I would do. Maybe they made that game for you. I feel like they might have. Next is After Years. Yeah, After Years is going to go into Blair. So I know After Years is bad. Maybe I'll put it in Mare because I don't think the combat system is that bad. Yeah, I'll put it in Mare, just so we can have one in Mare. After Years is dog shit. We'll see what happens. Next is going to be 13. Now, I also think that 13-3 is going to be in Mare or Blair. Because I have heard one thing about 13, and yes, it was spoiled for me, unfortunately, is that it's a time loop. And I don't like the idea of a Final Fantasy time loop. So I'm going to put it in Meh. Because they tried to do that with Breath of Fire and it didn't work. And they're going to try it with this now too. Right, and then finally 2. 2 is going to go in Blair. Because I have heard things about 2. I have heard very bad things about this game. But there you go, chat. I don't think there's going to be any more perfects on the list, unless Tactics is like perfect. But I definitely think we're going to be having a lot of alrights and Mares and probably Blairs, and Dirge of Cerberus is going to be the best one out of all of them. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed your time. Do I just raid? I feel like we should just get out of here. Fucking Dirge above 13-2. Hell yeah. What a shambles. Well, we'll see what happens, won't we? I'm gonna delete all this. We got it in the recording anyway, so I can just put it on the recording afterwards. I mean, we could stop, or chat, or we could do something a little fun. It's time, chat.